Hey everyone, we're continuing the conversation on Jumpstart Agora. Today we're here to talk about the observability stack for Kubernetes. Stay tuned. Hey everyone, Leo's here with another Jumpstart Lightning episode. We are continuing the video series for Jumpstart Agora, and today I'm having Zaid here with me to talk to me about the observability stack for Kubernetes. Zaid, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Excited to be here.
Zaid, last time that you were here, we talked about, I believe it was open service mesh, and a lot of water went through that river since then. And today we're here to talk about the observability stack for Kubernetes that we did. But before we go into all this good stuff, Zaid, who you are, what is it that you do?
Yep. So I work here as a senior consultant at Industry Solutions Delivery Team, where I help customers build hybrid cloud solutions on Azure. I'm also part of Azure Arc Jumpstart team and delighted to be part of Agora series.
One of the OGs, I should say. One of the early members of the Jumpstart team for sure. So, Zaid, talk to me for a second about the design experience of what we wanted to do here with Jumpstart Agora. Maybe share with the viewers a bit of background to, the motivation here.
Sure, great question. Because it was a bit of a challenge for me as well. Because if you look back at the history of Jumpstart, we've always been aligned to tech-driven scenario-based solutioning, providing Jumpstart solutions, one-touch solutions for the customers and the field. And then we started packaging it up in shape of ArcBox and other solutions. But here, what we did was a little bit different. We went industry-based driven scenario, and the first one was Contoso Supermarket, right? So we
Yeah.
wanted to make it real in terms of feel. And when it comes to Kubernetes, right, we wanted to use a native or integrated solution, which is more inbuilt when you talk about Kubernetes monitoring. So for us, the solution was built on top of Prometheus and Grafana, because Prometheus is like a go-to monitoring solution for Kubernetes. It is built with Kubernetes in mind, and it easily integrates with it. And then it collects all those data and metrics, and then on top of it, Grafana comes and gives you all those beautiful
Yeah.
dashboard which you can look at.
So we're looking at the architecture diagram, and what is the piece that we're going to talk about today?
Yeah. So in this session, our focus would be on the observability of the Kubernetes here. And as we spoke about, it's not just the AKS cluster, Azure Kubernetes Service Cluster, because if you have seen our previous session, the overall Contoso Supermarket is built on AKS cluster as well as AKS Edge Essential clusters. So this observability covers both the solutions, right? So we are going to talk about both of them here.
Nice. One observation that I have, and to share, also to share with our viewers, is that, we've been always kind of oriented towards things that are out there in the wild, and we're not constrained to Microsoft products per se. And in this case, it was a classic example to how we decided to go with something that is an industry standard. In the case of Prometheus and Grafana, we could have gone with Azure Monitor, but we decided to align to something that is more broadly adopted in the context of Kubernetes clusters, right?
Correct. I mean, and just to add on another point to that, it also gives you that big, huge and active communities, right? You get so many community dashboards and queries and everything. With somebody who is a beginner, they can leverage it and get started. Or if somebody is an expert, they can also start from scratch and they can build their dashboards and stuff.
Got it. All right.
Yep. So let's quickly jump into the architecture diagram here. So as we spoke about earlier, we have the Prometheus and Grafana configured for each environment. So you have it for the staging cluster as well as for the production cluster and the dev cluster. And Prometheus is here, which is our open source monitoring system that is collecting the store metrics from Kubernetes in real time. And then we are using Grafana on top of it to visualize the collected metrics in form of dashboards.
Yeah.
Right.
I like Zaid, I like the versatility of the architecture, because of those environments like the staging and, the development and all that. I wanted to ask you a question. What was the reason of splitting those environments in the context of Prometheus and Grafana?
Yep. So there are two aspects which we have tried to cover. First one was we wanted to have a consistent experience. So we didn't want to give a different experience for an AKS cluster and Edge Essential cluster. That's why we went with staging Prometheus and Grafana for each environment.
Yeah.
The second thing is we wanted to consider the real-time rollback or the roles and responsibilities as well. So that's the reason we went with separate instance of Prometheus and Grafana in the package.
Got it.
But if you pay attention to the production instance on the right hand side, uh, in a real world scenario, we also wanted to have a single dashboard where
Mhm.
the operations team can come and have a look at their clusters in each region, right? In this case, Seattle and Chicago. So that's why you see a single production Grafana instance. The data is coming from Seattle Prometheus and Chicago Prometheus.
Separations of concerns. I love it.
Yeah. So before we actually jump into the actual demo environment and show you, I quickly wanted to show you the place where you can get started on, right? So if you
Mhm.
browse to our Azure Arc Jumpstart site and you go to the Jumpstart Agora and the Contoso supermarket scenario, this is
Mhm.
where you need to click and you will get all whatever we're going to talk about in the session today, right? All these pieces,
Mhm.
how to get started and how you can look at different dashboards when you have done a successful deployment in your environment.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. So now I'm logged into the client machine. So once your deployment is successful and then you have logged in, the initial script is completed successfully.
Mhm.
Now what we're going to see the actual uh, resources which are deployed inside the architecture, right?
Mhm.
So we are in the Chicago store, as you can see here, and Contoso has dedicated a namespace, observability, for all the observability related resources.
Yeah.
And if I click on it and see what all different resources are, for the people who are familiar with Prometheus, they can relate to it, because what we are doing here is we are leveraging community Kube Prometheus stack Helm chart, which is like a collection of Kubernetes manifest, Grafana dashboard, and Prometheus rules.
Mhm.
So you get all those things as pre-packaged. You don't have to deploy each resource as a separate thing,
Got it.
right? And if you will pay attention to a few of the things, you will see there are a few services which we are exposed externally. When we are doing the demo on the dashboard, you will see how we are leveraging these Prometheus services and exposing it to the Grafana so that they can collect the data.
Mhm.
Okay, so now right now I'm on my client VM and I'm on Edge browser, and as you can see here for Contoso users, we have also bookmarked on the favorites bar. So you can go here Grafana, and I'm right now on the Grafana prod instance, and you can log in with the Agora or the username and the credentials which you have passed during the deployment as part of the parameters.
Mhm.
Right. Once you log in here, there are a couple of things I wanted to highlight. The first thing is, as you can see here, they have created a persona which is for the operations team, right, which is
Mhm.
Contoso operator, so that they have this roles and responsibilities what they need in terms of access, but they also are limited to what they can do, right? So they cannot add additional data source and all, but they can see the dashboards which they need to see, right? And to make it easier, as you can see here, what they have done is they've also bookmarked the critical dashboard, which they can come here on the home page itself and have a
Mhm.
quick look.
Nice.
Okay, right? The first one which we wanted to have a quick look on is the Chicago Kubernetes global dashboard, right?
Mhm.
So this dashboard, it offers a concise overview of the cluster. I mean, if you quickly want to have a look at the overall health and performance, this is the dashboard for you, right? It gives you information around CPU, the RAM, and the network utilization,
Mhm.
right? So as you can see here, it also compares like what is the real usage versus the request and limit, which is set on the Kubernetes level,
Mhm.
right? And if you
Yeah.
scroll down here, you will see it categorizes CPU and memory for different levels, right? So if you see here cluster CPU utilization and memory utilization, this is across the cluster. But if you scroll down further, it gives you per namespace level as well.
Mhm.
And if you further scroll down, it gives you for each instance. So if you have, for example, multiple nodes, it gives you details for each nodes as well. Okay. Yep.
Mhm.
And the last one which it gives you is, again, as I spoke earlier, overall network performance of the cluster itself.
Yeah. I every time I look at Grafana dashboards, it's such an eye candy. It's such so much pleasing to see. No matter what your environment looks like, it's just pleasing to see.
Yeah, how bad your environment is, but still it looks amazing.
Right.
Yeah, it's a very good starting point for troubleshooting. And so, for example, if you are looking at your global Grafana dashboard, that gives you an overall architecture or the health of your cluster, but you figure out
Mhm.
that. For example, where you're seeing an instance level metrics and you figured out your particular node has an issue, right?
Yeah.
Now you want to drill down in a particular node details, right? So that's why
Mhm.
what they have done as well is they've also imported a dashboard called as Node Exporter Dashboard,
Mhm.
right? This provides details for node level metrics and resources. So it gives you similar information, but detailed down to each node. right? And then you can come here, and if you had multiple nodes, because in this case we have edge essential cluster with a single node, you can see a
Yeah.
single node. But if you had multiple nodes, you can come and select your each instance of the nodes, and then drill down similar statistics, but in more detail,
Yeah.
right? If I scroll down here, you will see the CPU information, the memory information, the network information. The one which I wanted to highlight, which you did not see there, was related to the storage, right? So
Hmm.
if somebody is complaining as an application team, they're experiencing some issues related to the disk performances,
Yeah.
you also get that data about the storage disk, as well as storage file system, in this particular dashboard.
Nice.
Okay, so this was all about the production dash for the Chicago one. And
Hmm.
if you wanted to look at what is happening in Seattle, so that is also bookmarked here. So you can come
Yeah.
here and you can click on the Seattle dashboard, you will get the same view.
Yeah.
So the last thing before I jump to the different environment, I wanted to show you was like, where is the data coming from, right? So if you
Hmm.
remember, we saw earlier that we were exposing our Prometheus service so that the data can be pulled to our Grafana dashboard. This
Hmm.
is where you see those data sources are added on the production cluster, right? And you can see these
Hmm.
Chicago and Prometheus, Chicago and Seattle are sending the data to the production instance of
Yeah.
Grafana.
Yeah.
Okay. So now this was all about AKS edge essential clusters in our prod. But what about AKS cluster? What solution are we using, right? So as you can see here for AKS cluster, which is our staging environment, you
Hmm.
get the same view. You have the same user persona logged in, Contoso operator, which you will use for the deployment. And then you have those dashboards bookmarked here. And then you can click on the dashboard, again, similar view, drill down into each one of them and get into the details,
Yeah.
like what's happening on your dashboards, right?
Consistency.
Yeah, the consistency which we wanted to
Mhm.
achieve. The last one which we want to talk about, the developers, right? Because developers, if you had seen our previous sessions about CI/CD, right, developer have been a
Hmm.
focus for us in this industry retail scenario.
Hmm.
So we wanted to give the same experience for developers as well. So as you can see, when you log in as developers, they also have those dashboards bookmarked, and they can come here and they can log in and look at the performance of the dev clusters, which is an AKS Edge Essential clusters here,
Yeah.
right?
Zaid, I really love that. I know I mentioned this a few seconds ago, but I really love the consistency between all the environments. Kind of the seamless experience between all the environments, making sure that everyone are getting the same thing. You know.
Okay. And the last thing which in addition we wanted to provide was for our developers, right? They might want to develop few new metrics, and they
Hmm.
may want to test those metrics out before actually going and writing a Grafana query and seeing if the data is coming or not. They want to directly test it on Prometheus
Hmm.
itself. So that's why you can see we have also bookmarked in the favorites the Prometheus dev instance. And
Yeah.
then you can come here and for example, if they have created a new metrics named as cube pod info, for example,
Hmm.
they can come here and execute a query and see what's happening, right? So
Yeah.
they get all the details and they know, okay, their metrics is working fine and it's sending the data to Prometheus. And then later they can go and work with the Grafana team and have the dashboards display all those values in the
Yeah.
nice dashboard.
And I'm curious, to ask our viewers if Prometheus and Grafana is something they are using in their in their environments. Let us know down below in the comments. Zaid, that was a short and sweet demo. I really like it, and we have all the instructions in the Jumpstart pages for Agora. Um, what just kind of final thought here before wrapping up the episode, Zaid. um, what was the kind of the best thing about developing this for you? What was the one thing that you learned throughout the way of developing the observability stack?
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple of things, but the one which was the best for me was the one I mentioned earlier, is
Hmm.
about the open source and the community work, right? Because
Yeah.
this is so tightly integrated with uh, the field. So that gives the best experience for somebody who is a beginner, who is starting to
Hmm.
work on this kind of work, and somebody who's well experienced also. So that was the best thing for me when I started working on this piece for this
Yeah.
Agora.
And I remember our conversations when we had to do the integration of the community dashboards.
Yeah.
And big shout out to the community who developed, the dashboards. We have specific shout outs in the documentations for Agora
Yes.
for the people that actually created the dashboards that we are taking advantage of. Zaid, thank you so much for joining me for this episode, and for the Jumpstart viewers. Make sure to like, subscribe. I mean, you're still here, so why not? And we're gonna see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.